ever looked at someone successful and wondered, how did they get there? Not what they achieved, not what they own, not even the title that they have, but who they had to become to get there. Today's conversation is for you if you've ever felt like that underdog. If you ever faced adversity and wondered if things would ever get better. If you ever found yourself standing at a fork in the road, trying to decide whether to keep going or just give up. Because today's guest reminds us that transformation, it's not about what happens to us. It's about the choices that we make when life gives us every reason to quit. From growing up in an immigrant family to building a successful career in a male-dominated industry, to empowering others to rise above their circumstances. Her story is one of resilience, faith, leadership, and transformation. Welcome to Real Talk on the Red Chair. I'm your host, Jessica Rojas, and today I have the privilege of sitting down with Jackie Giraldo. Jackie,
hi.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Seriously, I'm excited. I'm excited for this conversation because when I asked you, we met at Ryan Serhan's.
Yes.
Okay, Ryan Serhan had this beautiful broker open.
Mm-hmm.
And when I spoke to you, it was like such a passionate conversation. You were like the most passionate about sales, not just sales, but about life.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed speaking to you about those things. It wasn't necessarily that you were talking about your success. It wasn't necessarily that you were talking about money. You know, it's like you talked about transformation, and that was right up my alley. I was like, oh, girl, we need to have you on this show.
I didn't know it then.
Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
You.
So talk to me, girl. What's been going on? For the people watching, people who are home watching and they're thinking, I want to become who I'm meant to be. A lot of people say, I want to become who I'm meant to be. So let's start at the very beginning. Okay. Tell us about Jackie, young Jackie.
Oh, little Jackie.
Yes.
Little Spanish girl Jackie that didn't know any English.
What was it like? What was it like growing up?
You know what? I learned this later in life, but I got so blessed with a beautiful family, a really good mom and dad, humble, hardworking, just like good, earnest people from Colombia. I'm first generation. They came here for a better life. My dad came from complete poverty. My mom came from violence, and they came to America and they wanted to build a life and a family that they never had. And those values were really instilled in me in a very young age. So in a hardworking, middle-class family, rising up, we bought our first home, and my parents really drilled in our heads how important it was for us to educate ourselves. And
Absolutely.
education was our future. You know that. You heard that.
Yes.
A lot of first generation children, that's the inheritance that we have from our parents is our values and just educating ourselves. And that was what helped me, survive and climb the socioeconomic class later in life. You don't even know what that was as a young kid, but as a young kid, I learned responsibility early.
Yes.
So translating letters just in schools and going through going to college for the first time and signing loans I had no business signing on my own, and you just kind of figuring things out. And my parents were the first example that I had of transformation. And I didn't realize how fundamental that was in my DNA. And that's inspired me through my whole life. So little kid Jackie was just super studious, reading and writing in her room, very active, playing sports, always trying to help my family, my brother, my loved ones. And I just always had that generosity to me.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful thing. A lot of people don't know that I worked with immigration for many years when I first was in the legal industry, and hearing all of those stories from different countries, people like you were mentioning about your mom, different people who had to escape danger, and come into this country for a better life and all of those things that you want idealistically for your kids. So navigating those challenges is huge, you know.
And that family unit is huge because my mom and my dad are very family centric in the sense that they came to this country and it wasn't just for themselves. They're there to help their mothers, their fathers, their siblings. And that's a huge part of community that I think I didn't realize it then, but that always was a really big part of even my transformation. It takes a village. You think you do it on your own?
Absolutely. It takes a village. And it's, you know, I saw a funny meme. Actually, it was a video on social media, and it was someone talking about, you know, how they became a good negotiator and a good salesperson. And it was translating everything for their parents and dealing with the phone bill and dealing with the doctors I thought that was the funniest but true, but very true type of video, because what you just said, you know, you handled all of those things for them.
Yeah,
right.
You learn to be this like mediator, so you become a really strong communicator, and you read the room, and you know how to, like, in my world, in like my industry, I speak designer, I speak builder, but I can translate and like be that translator even in a profession.
So it's funny that you said that, though, because it made me think of that video that I saw. So was there ever a moment growing up where you felt like the underdog?
I was just talking about a story with my mom about this. Actually, always. I've always felt like the underdog because in many ways I was. So even in but you realize, like, you have so many blessings, you have so much privilege. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Don't look at yourself like a victim. Okay?
Right. No, it's not. There's not the victim mentality, but the true underdog.
Yeah. And you know what? For me, at first, it was that language barrier, you know, in school and not knowing how to defend myself. And then it became like even socially, like our parents moved into an area just so we can have good education. So there was no one like us. So there was also this social barrier where you would be like told derogatory things like, oh, you dirty Mexican, or like, oh, your parents are Colombian, like they sell drugs, right? And it's just kind of this like social young like barrier, just this.
It's so crazy. And being that young, you're not even understanding. I remember the first time I was told I was a minority. I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
And it was on my college application. And they were just like, oh, you know, you can sign in and you can register as a minority. And I'm like, why?
What?
Why am I a minority?
Exactly.
That sounds so ridiculous right now. Right?
You just said that, and I'm like, I didn't realize I was a minority until these stories just started to like happen socially with friends and in school. And then I realized it's like, wait, but like your parents know what they're doing. Let's say loans, paying for college, and it's like,
well, the fact that you even applied for college and you were able to navigate that. I remember how difficult it was to navigate an application.
Oh.
I was the first one to go to college, and, you know, single mom, and she spoke well English. She was a businesswoman, even though she came in from Puerto Rico, and she was, you know, 13 years old, did not, 8th grade education, you know, didn't speak the language. But when I was my turn to go to college, it was like these applications, handwritten at the time, you know, and we didn't know what to apply for. So I'm surprised like you were able to have the right guidance.
So this is where my biggest gift was that I always asked. I was always curious. I always observed people. So I observed friends that were similar to me, like same education. I'm like, they had the same value systems. And then I just asked them questions like, where are you applying to school? Like, how did you go about this, you know, process? So I would just lean on the people around me and ask a lot of questions. So that became really important throughout my entire life, but especially growing up, I really didn't know who to turn to, but I had the instinct to just ask, and I had kind of this always like will to like figure it out. And I really wanted to make my parents proud. Like I did not want their sacrifice. And you see it, like you grow up seeing the sacrifice. Like we didn't have money, but we had love and we had values and we had protection and support. And it's like, it just felt so important to figure whatever out. So
But you said you asked the right questions. That's step one. But I also feel like God sends us these angels that provides us the right answers.
100.
Because I remember being young and being told by a teacher, you're never going to become anything. Like you're never going to go to college. Like that is not in your future. And if it wasn't for the true angels in my path during my high school years, it happened to be my high school coach. And she was a coach in a college. And so she was really helping me navigate how to get into colleges because I was told by my guidance counselor, you could only go to a community college. And I didn't know what the difference was, to be honest with you, between a university and a community college. And it was my coach that was like, no, you're going to apply to these places, which were all universities, and told me about like education opportunity program for minorities. That's when the minority word came in, and I was like, what's that mean?
You know what? My mom had a cleaning business. So actually, me and my mom collectively with our network kind of we figured things out because she also worked at a restaurant. So she came across a bunch of different people and lawyers and accountants, and they adored her. And then she had a relationship with them and they trusted her. So my daughter's going to college, or I'll ask my mom, hey mom, do you know anyone you could ask for XYZ? What is a Parent Plus loan? Like, and I do my so her and I kind of like figured things out, which is like, I had many angels.
Yes.
Like and God, I think, was really, really crafty in him making sure that like I made a decision on my own, even though he sent people to guide me.
Absolutely.
Their voices were quiet and not strong. Like they weren't so loud and intrusive enough to like sway me one way. It really allowed me to have discernment.
And again, that comes with your resilience.
Yes.
That comes with your resilience because some people will shut down. And then some people push through.
There's something about not having an option to push through. Like my mom was saying this, it's like, it's surviving Colombia and her father and her upbringing. It's like, you either survived it or like you didn't have food. You didn't have safety. That could be your life. Like, so there's something in that survival that like, it felt that serious. It felt that deep when I'm like, I cannot let you down. It's something about that loyalty.
But again, that was your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you say you don't have an option, that's you not giving yourself an option.
Valid, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you think about that, because I remember when I finally got accepted to a college, right? And I was like, I cannot fail a class because this cost way too much money for my mother and for us that we don't have for me to fail. So there is no option. So you give yourself no option.
That's important.
Yes.
Holding yourself accountable. Listen, we take that muscle and we also learn we need to give ourselves grace.
Yeah.
But there is something about holding yourself accountable. What I said earlier, like you're not the victim. Like everyone does have their adversities and obstacles to overcome. But my mom constantly reiterates, she's so inspired by these stories with people that like lost their limbs and had just the worst things that happened to them, but they are walking, they are running that race, they are figuring it out. She lived that life. My dad lived that life, and it's just so much in who they are that through osmosis, like that really bled into my value system. And talk about our environment, like how important it is to surround yourself around the right people.
Yes.
Like
100%.
that osmosis effect is real. So you also have to be very, very intentional about the people that you allow into that that space.
Absolutely. It's interesting. You were talking about basically hard moments, right? We all have different hard moments, and you hear different stories from different people. But, one of the exercises that I recently did with with my coach's mastermind, I was out in California, we had a coach's mastermind, and the head coach had us all start off with taking a moment. We broke off into groups and talked about our hardest thing that we ever dealt with in our life, right? And it was a really intimate moment. But when you start hearing everyone else's hard, your hard doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You put things into perspective. You hear about your mother's story, or you hear about somebody losing a limb, or and it's always like, instead of like you were saying before, having that victim mentality. It's having the mentality like, yes, I'm dealing with this, but I'm not dealing with that, you know? And it's more appreciation of what you do have instead of the victim of what I'm going through. Oh, woe is me.
100%. Actually,
Right?
that's huge. The gratitude thing was a huge point, like feeling like the underdog and having these things, but having the gratitude because you're always gonna like, there's always gonna be that bar that just keeps getting higher.
And that's great because it helps us grow.
It helps us grow.
Right.
But then you also need to stay grounded because if you're constantly living in what happened in the past, what hasn't happened yet in the future, where are you?
Right. You're
Where
not present.
You're not present. You can't have a real conversation. You can't experience real connection and love and joy. Like you have to learn how to ground yourself and be present. And that gratitude, it's like it just reminds you, it just gives you context to the before and the after. And you kind of need that anchor point, and it's literally in the present moment.
And that's what I think that a lot of people don't take a moment to appreciate the now, you know? And I talk to my nieces, I talk to so many people about the rear view mirror, right? We've had these stories, we've had these things happen to us in our past, but we can't keep looking at that rear view mirror. It's not allowing us to move forward, right? So it's like allowing yourself to heal, because there's a difference between just closing the book and thinking it happened and you closed it and you moved on. You need to heal. You need to deal with it, okay? But once you've dealt with it and you've closed it properly, now you're moving forward. You're not bringing it with you.
Yes.
Okay, you're not bringing that baggage. But I love, you know, the goal setting and the everything that I even coach on, but you have to be present with today.
Yes.
And so many times I even have coaching clients that they're talking about their win today, and it's not even a celebratory moment. I'm like, did you take a moment to celebrate that?
I've been there. Yep.
You know, like, did you take a moment to celebrate that you actually accomplished that beautiful thing?
Yes.
And that comes with waking up every morning and taking a breath of fresh air. Did you take a moment to say, oh my gosh, I woke up?
You know, I had a moment like that recently, and like God is so good. But I had always had a dream of having a luxury vehicle with like a roof, a sunroof, right? Like that. It was just so simple. But as a kid, like it was just my dream. And the other day, I was just looking at my car. I have a BMW. It has the sunroof, and it's honestly everything I love. And I was looking at this, and I'm like, wait, I like dreamed of this one day. Like one day, this, what I have right now, is what I dreamed of. So sometimes we really need to learn to embody. Like there's a really cool exercise my coach made me do, because you know we also lose it sometimes. You lose perspective, but you just got to keep coming back.
Yes,
that's it, and you catch yourself. But she made me do this embodiment exercise for like a week straight, and it made me really fall into that gratitude energy and like that space and feeling it. But it was like, all right, like it's okay. It's good to look forward. Like give yourself a direction.
absolutely.
Right?
You want that roadmap.
That's it. But okay, envision it now, but now feel it today. What would that future Jackie be doing right now? What would she be feeling? Like, what are the kinds of things she would be eating and experiencing and whatever?
We did the entire exercise. We did the entire exercise, and we did like 5 years, 10 years, and then we did 20 years. If you think about 20 years from now and you close your eyes and who are the people in your life? What is actually surrounding you? What do you see? It is such a beautiful exercise.
That made me realize I wanted to spend more time with my parents.
Yeah.
Because I realized they're not going to be around forever. And we kind of had like a health scare last year with my dad. And now it's like, I'm like, wait, I have aging parents. Like
I refuse. So FYI, I refused to let it go. So in my vision, she was still with me. My mom was still there.
You know what?
She was still looking great.
My mom says every day how much she misses her mom. I know my mom, you know, when you're close with your family like that, like I know I will always feel her. She'll always be with me, but there is a reality, a beautiful reality that makes me appreciate today more, that like I physically may not be able to like hug her or like hear her voice.
Right.
Oh, it makes me like cry.
No, you know, I've had a lot of scares with my mom. You know, we've had big ones, big moments where we've even sat down with her, gone through the obituary, like legitimate. We had big moments. So I would save, when she would leave me a voice message, I would save it, and I was like, well, maybe I'll want to go back and play this later, so every time because usually I call her for my bendición, my blessing every morning. And then I'm like, well, I would want to have this if God forbid the day ever, I refuse to.
Oh.
But anyway, we're moving from there. Okay. So has there ever been a reason, really, a moment where you really doubted yourself?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
Really. Even as a young girl, I always thought of myself as like, oh, you're that stupid Hispanic girl. You know how nasty that is to talk to yourself that way? But I didn't realize how my external environment was really making me feel that way.
Yeah.
Or maybe honestly, in my marriage, you just really start believing you're someone that you're not.
Yes.
So that's again protecting your energy and your environment. And then, even in this male dominated space, sometimes you're like, I don't look like you. And also being like a Latin woman too, in a white male dominated space, which there's no problem with that, but there's an adjustment to that because you can't lose who you are.
Right.
And
Right.
I definitely have felt that sense of I forgot what you said.
No, like if you've ever felt like you were really like losing you,
Like
doubting yourself,
doubting yourself. Yes. Doubting myself. I definitely had many times because it's a lot of firsts. Like in my 20s when I had my first $8 million store, I'm like, why are you trusting me with this?
Right.
Who am I? But you really have to force that belief into yourself. I can do it.
It's
I'm
almost
here
like
for a reason.
a lot of people talk about the imposter syndrome.
Oh,
and then the ego, right? Like the alter ego when you're showing up somewhere for a presentation. It's that person, that confident alter ego person version of you.
Yes.
And then, Beyonce talks about it a lot, right? When she's on stage, it's her alter ego, but it's not really who she is in everyday life.
Yes.
So there's a whole book on alter ego. It's really, really great. And it does help significantly for you to empower yourself and be that person when you're presenting in that way, right? It even protects you because listen, we've had Ryan Serhant, we've had a lot of people talk about confidence. And if you are entering a room like that, where you're doubting yourself, any presentation, anything that you're selling, anything that you're doing, if you're showing up and you don't believe in yourself, they can feel that and they're definitely not working with you.
Yes, right? That's true. As I started climbing into more rooms like that, you started to realize you have to really know who you are. And you really have to allow her or him you have to fully embrace that.
Right.
You have to, and that's where there's a lot of self-love and things like that, but
huge amount of self-love
because you really have to feel it. There's only so much you can fake it. You at some point, your energy does not lie.
Right.
And that's what walks into the room.
Right. And that's why that confidence is so important. Now, you did mention something to me and I was like, oh my God, it really stood out. It was the story about your cousin.
Oh, you know what? I am so inspired by inspiration because, some things are positive, but you know what? Not everyone has these positive experiences that inspired them. Like my cousin was a perfect example that his life, he should have been in jail. He should have been the biggest POS, on the planet with the dad that he had, the, vacant mother that was there, but not really there. And he kind of had to protect himself in the world. And he was getting into a lot of trouble when he was young. And you know what? It's just sometimes you just don't know where people are going to lead. And he decided for himself that he wanted to show up for himself. And he recently had his newborn, that's 3 months old. And I'm looking at him across the table and it's like, he's accomplished so much in his career. Like he's a real VP. He's a real leader in his industry. He's a whole father. Like he was there. He's family oriented. He has his wife who he's devoted to. He has a son who motivates him that he's going to have everything I never had. And you know what? It just reminded me that transformations are real.
Yes.
Transformations are beautiful. And no matter what situation you are today, there's no reason you can't change that. It's never too late.
Never too late.
Never too late.
Yes.
And that was just such a beautiful moment because I know him. I was there. I was there every step of the way as a kid, as a teenager, through college and in his 30s. And I am just so proud to see
Yeah.
that transformation.
And that's what you said. You said what inspired you about him is not necessarily what he accomplished. You said it was who he became,
Who he
right? And that's what hit me. That's until that story alone reminds me of so many people, right? And you can think of yourself, who have you become, all the different chapters of your life.
Right.
When we were talking about the young Jackie versus the Jackie who sits here today.
Right.
And I always love and I actually did this exercise with my therapist, and she was like, what would Jessica of today whisper in the ear of Jessica back then?
Yeah.
Going through those moments, and sometimes I find those things, it's like, yeah, and just knowing that it's going to get better.
It's going to get
so many times when people go through different situations or different things in life, and you said he was this way and that way, this is not your identity. This is not the end of your story. This is not who you are, where some people really do feel this is the end.
You know what? That's where faith starts to play such a big role. Because like you just have to believe in a little more, even when you have nothing.
Absolutely.
And there's so many times I've leaned on God where like I just felt like I couldn't keep going. And in those moments when you just hang on those 10 minutes more, like just when you want to give up, and like talk to him a little bit longer. How about spend time with him? And whatever it is that you do, it doesn't have to be God, but you lean in on just 2 seconds more, 3 seconds more, and just survive that moment. Just survive one more moment.
Yeah.
There's something about having faith.
Absolutely.
And or hope.
Absolutely. Listen, I think that it's so powerful because society celebrates outcomes. So we celebrate promotions, we celebrate businesses, titles, and money, but we rarely stop to really celebrate the person that someone had to become to achieve those things, right? Why do you think that part of the journey is so important? Who you have to become?
Oh my gosh. It's like you can't fake it. You just really have to start believing yourself. You just have to really start to believe you deserve more. You just have to really start believe these things or you're not going to do it.
Right.
You're not going to do something you truly don't believe or want to do.
Yeah.
So you have to really decide and be honest with yourself and have some like real honest self-inventory.
Yes.
And just work on it. Just be better.
Yeah.
And it's like just be better. But whatever you decide it's important for you, whether it's your physical shape, whether it's your spirituality, if you decide you want to be closer to God, spend time with God. If you want to decide you want to be a healthier person, like start eating vegetables. Like you just decide and follow up with an action. Because then it starts to become who you really are.
Yes.
And it takes like there's always a transitional period. And you have to embrace that. You can't get lost in that. And it's confusing because like there's this identity that you used to be and what you're used to and what your body wants, and it's going to keep clawing towards.
Right.
And then there's this thing that you're working towards, but you have to work towards it.
Right.
Like you can't escape
one
that.
moment at a time, one day at a time, as they always say. Now, you also used this beautiful analogy, right? You talked about the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Most people only see what's above the surface, the success, the beautiful home, the thriving business, the accomplishments, right? But underneath all of that are the sacrifices, the setbacks, the lessons, and the resilience. And so, what don't people see beneath the surface of your iceberg?
How many times I've doubted myself. I've sat in my room absolutely crying and sobbing and just believing that I couldn't even accept the blessings I had. Like, why do you believe in me? I had good friends. Like, what do you even see in me? And I just really the self-doubt was crippling. That's what people don't see. Because on the external, you would see, oh, she's an extrovert. She's really confident. But there were so many moments of self-doubt. And there was just so much pain that I've kept for, myself that a lot of people don't see. But the people that have eventually, when I've opened up, it's been such a healing process. So people really, the smiley face and the energy that I bring, to my job or in a room. People don't know the sadness and the pain that I've actually really mustered up and felt in behind closed doors on my own.
Do you realize how important that message is?
Mm.
Like that right
Feel the
there,
feels.
that right, no, right, that right there is
Mm.
that's the message that people need to hear, because there are so many people out there, people watching this right now, who they feel invisible, right? They
Mm.
feel like they're in that invisible season,
Yeah.
doing the work, making the sacrifices, wondering if anything at all matters,
Oh,
right?
yes.
What would you say to that person?
Oh my gosh, that sweet person that doesn't even know how good things can get. Just keep going. Be kind to yourself. Learn how to love yourself. Talk to that inner little child. Like I remember imagining 7-year-old Jackie, 4-year-old
Mhm.
Jackie, 15-year-old Jackie, and at some point, like meditate, spend time with yourself. Like really spend intimate time with yourself, because healing is somatic also, and you really have to like feel it. You can't just like talk it to death. And lean on people, do something uncomfortable in the sense of like even opening up. At some point, opening up was something that felt like the end of the world
Taboo.
for me. It felt taboo, and not even in this pride. It was more like I can't let someone in on how much pain I'm actually
Well,
feeling.
we don't even realize sometimes it's in our blueprint.
Oh, really?
Remember, yes, because remember, your parents came from
Oh,
somewhere and it's like you don't talk about it, you just deal with it
yeah.
type of thing.
Hmm.
So without realizing it, it's in our blueprint that it is taboo to talk about, and it's important to talk about.
Yes, it
That's
is.
it's healing to talk about.
And you know what? And that's something my mom actually, like, as my mom was doing her work my entire life. So as life evolved, like she became so many different versions of my mom. And for, as she's evolving, she's saying it's really important. Like just desahogarte.
Mm.
And whatever you have inside, bring it out and just talk. And listen, if it's not me, then someone, or get help
Mm-hmm.
or something, but
Mm-hmm.
but don't leave it inside. And that was kind of like her message. So even if you're just starting, and even that sounds like a stretch, start writing. Just start
Yeah.
recording yourself. Like just start talking
Healing.
to yourself.
Writing was always healing for me. I
Me
still
too.
quit every single day. We
Yeah.
were just talking about that.
Yeah.
It's part of my therapy, because sometimes you can't be honest with everybody around you, but you could be honest with yourself in writing,
Start
right?
there. Yeah.
So it's so important to start there.
Mm.
Let's talk about your career.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You found this incredible career in construction,
Yeah.
development, and
Mm.
sales, industries that haven't always been welcoming to women, as we
Yes.
talked about. What was it like navigating those spaces?
Oh, it was challenging in the beginning because I was a young 20-something-year-old. And at some point, so, hey, sweetie, this and that, like she's pretty and she probably doesn't know anything. Or whether it became kind of when I was a leader and running my business, I was the youngest in the room. So it's like, who are you? You could be my granddaughter. What do you have to say? How could you lead me? So there were a lot of moments. Those moments were challenging in the sense that I had to really fundamentally decide if that was going to define me, break me, or what I was going to do with that. And I just, I wanted to prove people wrong, like meaning like good could really like just me being myself, me working hard, me working honestly could actually like start to trailblaze a path. And that's what started to happen. So I started to believe that that was just more and more possible. But there were so many instances where when I was up for a huge promotion, there was a gentleman that I worked with that had a daughter. A middle-aged man that went out of his way to call me and say, "Hey, are you sure you want to take that role? Like you're a young, pretty looking girl. Like you belong doing the showroom, selling pretty things to like customers. You would do really good at that." And I was like, I'm gonna accept tonight. And I did. And I accepted that night because it was like, well, like, what are you
That was
like
the
you?
message. Well, that was a message sent to you for a reason, so
Mm.
that it can push you to say, I'm going to accept tonight.
And that was a badass moment. You know why? Because I had so much, I'm like, I had to really prove if I believed in myself. And I had to really push through some hard moments. And you know what? In 18 months, I took a store that was revenuing $4 million to $8 million in 18 months as a 22-year-old, not knowing anything, leading people that were double the size of me, as the size of me, the age of me. And that in itself had its imposter,
Right.
moments. But
Right.
I just felt so proud of that looking back at it. I'm like, I didn't know, but I just put the money on me that I'd figure
You
it out.
had faith.
I had faith in that.
Faith.
And it was like a not like, there's no option but there.
Yes.
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 And you have those moments, like hone in on like step into those. When you really believe in something, like really step into those moments, and I just really believed, I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and be a pretty face when I know I have intelligence. I know I have good values. I know I don't need to play small to play at all.
Well, that was going to be my question. Like, how did you stay true to yourself while climbing that corporate ladder?
A lot of learning curves along the way too, because even in like this corporate environment, it's also very like in corporate, you have to make certain decisions in a certain way, and that's how you climb up the corporate ladder, right?
Right.
But so to resist that was really hard. Those were bigger pay increases, those were larger positions, but I could not betray myself I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't freaking do it. So you just have to really also listen to yourself. Like, I just your moral compass. Like when you really start to stray and be something that you're not, it starts to not really feel good. So how much you numb that, how much you're willing to like just push that voice to the side. It only happens, it can only last for so long. It's gonna catch up.
I
So
mean, success sometimes does come with pressure, that pressure of becoming someone else.
yeah, yeah. And to some degree, it's like, yeah, because to be successful means that there's a level of growth. So there's a delta, like there is a gap to fill, but so how do you stay true to yourself in the journey and
Yes.
not lose yourself?
Right.
Like, so you just kind of need to have some really honest conversations with you. Reflection is important. Journaling is important. Meditating is important. Talking to the people around you is important. There was a moment where I just wasn't being myself. And my friends and family were kind of leaning in and being like, hey, are you okay? But there was nothing they could say to me. I just had to let it crash and burn and then realize, wow. But then have humility and be okay with being wrong and move on.
Yes.
That's so important.
Yes.
Forgive
And you
yourself.
actually said something else that really resonated with me. And you said that life can harden people,
Oh, yeah.
right?
That's true.
Life can make people bitter. Life can make people quit. Yet some people continue moving forward. Why do you think that is?
Oh, because life is not easy. It's not freaking rainbows and butterflies. Like it's an active choice. It's either love or it's not. Like the fork in the road forever for everyone. Like you have to choose to come from a place of love or a place of ego.
Right.
Like point blank. So you either need to come from a place of love where you know what? You're loving yourself, you're having better boundaries, better expectations, but maybe a place out of love where you show someone forgiveness and grace and just allow that space, not to like react. So love shows up in different ways. If in hindsight, is this gonna feel like a place of love or was it greed? Was it anything outside of love? Is your compass.
Right.
So like not that it's a perfect system, but truly I think it keeps you honest.
Yes. Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. Well, what do you think separates people who transform from people who stay stuck?
They just made a decision too.
It just takes a decision and action.
Over and over again with an action.
Right?
Give yourself that proof.
Okay, how about faith? We've mentioned it a few times. So let's talk about faith. Because faith was woven throughout everything you shared with me.
Yeah.
And I kept looking at that and noticing, even in our conversation today, it was like constantly you've brought up faith. You talked about those moments where hope feels like you're holding on by a thread. You talked about all of these different moments of your life where faith brought you through, like faith got you through. I mean, that's all of what you've been speaking about. Have you ever experienced a season like that personally where you're like, that was 100% faith? Because it wasn't there. I had to believe in something that actually I didn't see yet.
Yeah, so many moments. The most recent one that resonates the last 4 years was my divorce, leaving my marriage. That was so difficult for me. It was not a healthy experience. And sometimes that can really cloud your judgment. And I just remember really like for the first time, it's like I hadn't really leaned on God in a long time in the sense of like how deliberate I was about it. But it's just kind of like, God, like, what do I do? Like, God, what am I doing? Or like, it just started, it's just with someone to talk to.
What kept you going?
Um, I've always had faith in God because of my parents. Meaning the framing. It's just how you look at things.
Right.
You can look at things positive or negative. So they always looked at things in a frame of thanks to him. Not that they went to church every Sunday or anything like that. They're like, just, God's here to protect you. If I like, they had always, how do I say this? Like, because it's not just like you grow up and it's like because your parents instilled it in you.
It was totally different. Like I was raised like Catholic and I went to Catholic school, but I don't think anything comes near the faith that I have today.
Yes.
Which is totally different from that, how you're raised. You're raised, you pray and you pray before you go to sleep and things like that. But it wasn't like that connection.
You know what? I learned to be more intimate than transactional with God because I started to learn how to be more intimate with myself than transactional with myself. Because then I also was very like production. What can I do? What can I do? And that's my worth. And then when that eventually fizzles out, then you really get intimate with yourself. You journal, you spend time with yourself, you spend time with God. But my faith, why I speak to it now, Jackie, years ago, you would never hear me speak about God, even though I always believed in God. And behind closed doors, I prayed. But because there's been so many circumstances that like, you're at the end of the rope and he's been there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this keeps happening, but I keep seeing it. And now I'm acknowledging it so much. And then it's just like, I'm just so grateful. And it's like, you can't help but like to give the village credit.
Right.
Like it wasn't just me.
Right.
And he had a huge part of it because those intimate moments alone, it's just you and who.
Right.
And that's why, because that became like the biggest, like, and I want to shout out God because
adversity typically strengthens your faith.
You're right.
It's those moments that people are up down on their knees.
Yes.
It's that moment when you get that bad news.
Yes.
Or anything that is your Achilles heel. For me, it's my kids. It's that moment, right?
Honestly, it's true. I even had a health scare where I had a blood clot and I was in the hospital. I couldn't walk. And I remember laying in that hospital bed abroad, didn't know the language. It was a disaster.
Oh, God, that sounds so scary.
Literally, it was actually really scary. And I was laying in this country that I do not know, this language I do not understand. And I'm laying in that hospital bed alone at night. And I'm like, just God, like, please, like everything's going to be okay. I know everything's going to be okay. And it's just, it hits you. Those moments that make you drop to your knees. My divorce was one of them. My dad's health scare was one of them. When you have no choice, you choose light, you choose dark.
Right.
You choose faith or you choose pessimism.
Right.
Like that you choose love or you choose something else.
Right.
And that's it. And it's just a choice. So I think I just chose to lean in on those moments towards something that felt like more light than I did darkness. And that alone brought me closer to God.
He was always with you on the journey.
I just didn't know.
Yeah. Now, one thing I loved hearing about your perspective on being 35.
Oh.
Okay. which is crazy because I'm 51. So
I look 35.
Now, you described it as this unique season, right? Where you're no longer where you were, but you're still becoming who you're meant to be.
Yes. Oh, these transitional periods are no joke. Those really because your identity is rocked and then you're asked the question, who are you? And it's like, I don't know. I am figuring it out, or like my body's changing. I don't know what it is. I used to work out this way and it used to just snatch me up like this. And now it's just that we're trying something different.
So what have your 20s taught you? Your 20s.
My 20s, my 20s taught me to take chances, to be a little bit daring, to take risk. And you kind of really don't think of the things that
Anything.
could
You're just
happen.
like, yeah.
So my 20s taught me to experiment. Experiment. That's the only way you're going to learn. That's the only way you're going to accumulate experience that give you the voice and the identity of who you really are. It'll show you.
Yes.
So just experience, like, and experimenting risks.
So what's the difference? What has your 30s taught you?
You know what? Then that's where you can get really hardened, because it's like, oh, well, this thing could go wrong, or like, now I got to be careful with this. Like, now stability is important, or fear starts to creep in more, right? So you really you have to learn how to navigate that nagging little voice.
Yeah.
And because this is the thing, like, the wiser you get, like, ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Saying.
Yes.
Because the more you know, the more you can't unsee. So you have to face it and deal with it. And sometimes it just feels like this mountain, and you just have to learn how to alchemize that into something a little bit lighter. And then you have to prioritize. Yeah. You'd have a huge mountain. You have a million things you could worry about now. Yes, time goes on. You have kids now. You have divorces under your belt. You have health issues. You have parents that are there or not there anymore. Career, scares, whatever. But you have to learn how to really prioritize, because you can't believe every thought. You can't believe every fear. And you're like, all right, listen, if I have only 24 hours in a day and only so much energy as far as my capacity and bandwidth, like, everything else has to go. What do I worry about? What am I putting my energy into? So it kind of like forces you to prioritize.
But what would you have told that 25-year-old version of you? What if you could sit down with 25-year-old Jackie today? What's the advice you would give her?
This is the least you're going to worry about anything. Try what you want. Travel. Start that business. Date that person, dump that person.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just experiment. This isn't the time to stay static and to keep things binary. You are bright. You have so much life, and you don't just give yourself context to that. Like, just do the things.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if we fast forward 10 years, right? What do you hope the 45-year-old Jackie says about the woman that you are today?
Wow. Wow. Oh man, I have to give myself flowers now, because in reality, I would say you are one badass woman. You have a big heart. You are generous. You have values. You are responsible. You are daring. You are brave. And at the end of it all, you are still yourself. You're authentic, and that in itself is inspiring. And that's how you don't realize the impact that you are having on those around you. And it may feel small because you don't even realize it, but just you being yourself is enough. It is beautiful, and it is strong.
Well, I'm glad this is recorded, because, by the way, another exercise that we did in coaching is actually doing a video to ourselves. And I think you should rewatch that for yourself.
Yeah.
And so that you can hear yourself saying that to you, because that was powerful. That was powerful. I want to go back to something that you said that I absolutely loved. You talked about life being a series of forks in the road.
Yeah.
Right? And every decision shapes the person that you become. Looking back, what was the one fork in the road that completely changed your life?
Oh, just one?
I know, because there's multiple, but what's the one that stands out? What's the first one that you're like, because of that decision, it changed my trajectory?
Marriage. And I didn't end up with him. Meaning, I got so much wisdom and understanding of what I'm made of, not just who I am. And the support and love and the blessings that I have around me. Like, it really forced me to be like, you see it now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Even my career, even my profession, it's like, wow, that really held me down. I had a family to go back to. Like, wait, I had a profession that like kept me afloat. Like, girl, you were okay. Like it it just, and then the fact that you kept going. And I had this conversation with my mom one day. I was in the middle of like, this was maybe a year into post-divorce. And I was like, it was just a low moment, but it was like, I just didn't know. I was lost. And, my mom looked at me and she was just like, you don't know how strong you are. She's like, you inspire me. Usted es una berraca. That's what she said. Usted es una berraca. And in that sense, it's like, you are a warrior, right? In a sense. And I was like, in my lowest moment, I had someone that saw me, believed
And you
me,
needed that.
loved me, and I needed it.
You needed
so that fork in the road of like getting married or not. I didn't know then, but that was going to teach me really, really important lessons, but really highlight the things that matter in life and what I have. And like, it could not have been more beautiful. It brought me closer to God.
Yeah.
It brought me closer to like who I am and shedding environments and people that actually weren't me. That was really hard to do. It just with that fork in the road was it was a ragged, pothole filled road.
What would you say then to someone who's standing at that fork in the road right now?
Girl, lean in. Brother, lean in. And just don't look back. Just 1 foot at a time. I used to tell my brother this. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. Not that you will eat an elephant, but the theory, the idea is 1 bite at a time. So just when you have a moment where you could lean in, do that. When you have another opportunity to lean in, do that. Just do that and trust that it'll lead you directionally in your direction that you're meant to go in, and just make that decision.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. All right. Well, before we wrap it up, I have one final question.
Yeah.
If someone is watching this right now, this interview today, and they're discouraged, and maybe they're exhausted, maybe they've been through disappointment, maybe they're questioning whether they have what it takes. What would you want them to know?
You have to believe that you already have everything that you need. You already are everything that you need to be now.
Yes.
That is your challenge. That is your homework. And whatever it takes for you to lean into that, that's your homework. That's number one.
I love that.
And then just trust that process along the way. You're going to want to fight it every step of the way.
I love it. I loved this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I mean, honestly, thank you for your honesty, for your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing your heart, because I appreciate that so much about you. What I love most about today's conversation is that it reminds us that success isn't measured by what we accumulate. Right? Success is measured by who we are becoming. And transformation isn't something reserved for just a selective few. So it's available for all of us, guys, if we're willing to keep showing up, keep growing, keep believing, and keep moving forward. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Real Talk on the Red Chair. And if today's episode, if this conversation spoke with you, please take a moment to like, comment, share, subscribe, send it to somebody who needs to hear this message. And remember, the greatest transformation in your life isn't what you're building, it's who you're becoming. We'll see you next time on Real Talk on the Red Chair. Thank you.